We have a special guest in studio today. He wants to be the next senator for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Ed Gillespie, the Republican nominee, is here. Good morning to you, Ed.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Listen, I want to jump right in and take full advantage of the time we have with you here this morning. It seems if you look at the politics of the Commonwealth of Virginia right now, there are two problems for a Republican candidate. One, the demographics in the state are changing. That's very clear, well established. Number two, the Republican Party in the Commonwealth of Virginia is fractured. How do you overcome both of those problems as a candidate?
Well, two things. One, you have to adapt to those changing demographics, and we've got a campaign that I'm taking to every corner of the Commonwealth and every segment of the electorate. And so when you look at my plan for economic growth, EG squared, Ed Gillespie's agenda for economic growth, we talk all the time and go everywhere talking about how I'm going to ease the squeeze on hardworking Virginians and make it easier for the unemployed to find work. And, you know, we've had that campaign literature translated into Spanish language, Korean language, Tagalog. We're getting it translated into Vietnamese, and I go everywhere and take our message everywhere. In terms of the party, I've been very fortunate. I have been able to unify our party here in the Commonwealth, and having a unified party behind me is pretty important. And I'll tell you, we've got a lot of volunteer energy and enthusiasm and intensity. Our volunteer force, we call it the G-Force, and the G-Force was out in full force over the past weekend knocking on doors. And so I feel very good about having a unified party, and I feel very good about having a message that resonates everywhere I go. I mean, I just want to say, you know, Eric Cantor became sort of, plastered with the title of being too establishment. Can that label be a problem? I mean, you are an establishment guy. You've been around the Republican Party for a long time. You know, I've been standing strong for conservative principles, constitutional principles of limited effective government for a long time, and Virginians know that, and Republicans and conservatives know that, and I, have support from people who identify themselves as Tea Party and Libertarian and traditional Republicans, and that's what you need to win.
Well, Brian makes a good point, though. That all those people who voted against Eric Cantor down there in his district in the primary, why should they vote for you?
Well, because I am going to fight for to have an agenda that will replace Obamacare with market-oriented reforms that work, to unleash American energy, to have tax and regulatory relief, things that Mark Warner on all fronts is bad on and is opposite me on that. That's why he's got a record of voting in support of President Obama 97% of the time. Nice. He's voted for $7 trillion in new debt and nearly $1 trillion in tax increases. And he didn't just vote for the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. He worked to help pass it, and he wants to keep it. That's a very clear choice. And so, look, I was able to win, the Republican nomination in a convention nominating process.
You did, and you rallied the grassroots.
Got a lot of activist support and continue to have activist support, and I'm proud of that.
So you mentioned Obamacare. I mean, Warner was the 60th vote for Obamacare. In fact, he took to his YouTube page and promised the voters of Virginia that if they like their doctor, they can keep your doctor. I hope you've got that going in the minutes.
I do have a clip of that somewhere.
Obamacare, taxes, regulation, that was going to be what this vote was about coming up in November. But now we see the threat of Islamic terrorism. We've got the president speaking tonight about ISIS. Virginia is a major military state. Hampton Roads has been hit hard by the sequestration. Yes. And a lot of people are concerned about the weakness of our Navy right now, which really means something to Virginia. How is Senator Warner different than a potential Senator Gillespie on those issues?
Well, of course, he voted for sequestration, and in the House of Representatives, they passed a bill to repeal the sequestration, and in the Senate, they have not, and they never will with a Democratic-controlled Senate. And one of the big things about this election here in the Commonwealth is it's not just important for Virginia, it's important for the country, because it will mean Republican control of the Senate for the last 2 years of the Obama presidency. And with Republican control, we could pass a repeal of sequestration. And you're right about the Navy, Larry. The fact is the Pentagon says in order for us to meet our national security needs, we should have a 306-ship Navy. We're at about 282 on any given day up and running, and we're on our way to about 255. We're moving in the exact wrong direction. And I will fight for our men and women in uniform. We need to make a greater priority of our military spending than this administration has. And again, Senator Warner's voted with this president 97% of the time in support of his policies. And what we're seeing today in the world is what happens when you adopt an approach, a national security approach and a foreign policy approach that this White House itself has described as leading from behind. Mm-hmm. And there's another word for that, and that word is following. And when the U.S. recedes from a leadership role in the world, chaos ensues, and you see that. Flip open your laptop, turn on your TV, and you'll see it in Iraq, Syria, Gaza, Iran, Egypt, China, everywhere, and we need to assert American authority.
Foreign policy aside, when you travel the Commonwealth and you meet with people, and you've been telling us here how long your days are. You start early and you end late.
Yeah.
What is beyond the foreign policy stuff? What are people angry about? What are they upset about? What motivates them?
Well, there's a segment of the electorate that's angry. There's a bigger segment of the electorate that's anxious. There's economic anxiety everywhere I go. And, that's because since Mark Warner took office, our household incomes in Virginia are lower than when he took office. The number of households on food stamps has increased 65%.
Wow.
The percentage of the labor force is lower. The percentage of working Virginians is lower, and more businesses are closing than opening in Virginia today, according to a recent study, and that results in economic anxiety, and that is the result of Mark Warner's policies. Job-killing policy after job-killing policy, and my policies will create jobs and raise take-home pay and lift people out of poverty, hold down health care costs, and reduce energy prices.
Our guest is Ed Gillespie. He is the Republican nominee for Senate in Virginia. The vote is coming up in November, and I keep reading about these conservative Democrats or these moderates who like Warner. They remember him as governor, and he hasn't done any harm and everything. But I'm hearing something in some of the answers I'm getting today. You're not just running against Mark Warner here. In a way, you are the 51st vote in the Senate for a Republican majority. Mark Warner, for that matter, would be the 51st vote for 6 more years of Harry Reid as majority leader. In a way, aren't you running against Harry Reid and his leadership?
Well, look, when you're running against Mark Warner, given how he votes in the Senate, siding with Harry Reid on vote after vote, I just mentioned energy policy, for example. I would fight to approve the Keystone XL pipeline. On 2 separate occasions, Mark Warner, despite saying he's for it, voted with Harry Reid to stop it from going forward with a vote. And look, like I say, this election is important for the country, not just the Commonwealth, because it will mean control, and that will mean that not only will Mark Warner become the former senator from Virginia, but Harry Reid will become the former Senate majority leader, and that would have a major impact on the future of the country.
A vote for Mark Warner is a vote for Harry Reid.
It is, and it's a vote. It's a vote for President Obama. He's been a blank check for President Obama. I will be a check on President Obama.
All right, listen. You've been around politics. You've been a strategist. You have worked at other campaigns. Now you are the candidate.
Yep.
How is it different?
It is different. For one thing, when you're a strategist or helping a candidate and you go into an event, you can kind of sidle off to the side, get a cup of coffee. That's not the case when you're the candidate. You got to be working the room. And, the good news is I really enjoy it. I like being a candidate. I like being out there listening to my fellow Virginians, sharing with them what I'm for. To your point, Larry, I'm, not just running against Mark Warner or Harry Reid or President Obama. I'm talking about what I'm for, and people want to know how are your policies going to improve our lives, and I've got answers to those things and solutions that I believe would get bipartisan support. Mm-hmm. So, I made a decision early on in this campaign when I got into this race that I was going to run as who I am on the things I believe in. I've been doing that. And fortunately, that is resonating all across the Commonwealth.
We are so glad you came by this morning. And, of course, we always need to say that we extend the same opportunity to your opponent. If he wants to come by and answer a few questions, we'd love to have him as well.
And we're looking for more debates, right? 3 more debates? Is that
2 more debates.
2 more debates.
I've accepted. I accepted 8, and he accepted 2 in the Commonwealth of Virginia. But
cue the chicken dance. Thank you, Ed Gillespie.
Ed Gillespie, thanks very much.